Chapter 14, in which Princess Kitty summons the Catbus. Princess Kitty and Grandpa Jack head down to the lower courtyard, only to meet the closed gates. So she used her scepter to open them, while saying,
"I can't believe that I didn't think of this earlier. I should have used my scepter to open the gates instead of making you fly, Jack."
"I'm not mad, Kitty," he said. "I'm glad that I have fun flying with you. But what shall we do now? How are we going to save the rest of the children before they end up in the slaughterhouse? There's only 2 of us, and in Bavaria there may be 100 of these soldiers." She suddenly smirked.
"Unless one of us need further assistance."
Then she pulls out a brass bell with a black handle from between her cleavage.
"I behold the final solution,"
she stated.
"I ring this bell, Jack, and it immediately summons the Catbus."
Grandpa Jack remembers his first encounter with the Catbus. "That giant cat that was owned by that creepy cat lady?"
"You know the one,"
she said. "Then ring it now! We have no time to lose!"
"I'll summon the bus after we get out of the village, to where we first arrive."
"Then how are we going to get there? Walk?" "I'm afraid all this walking is starting to hurt my feet." With the 2 pigs, they head inside the stables on the left. "By the way, if the Catbus wasn't enough, how are we going to defend ourselves?" he asked.
"Then I will summon the Sword of Love,"
she said. "Sword of Love? Sounds amusing. Do you have it?"
"My scepter will transform into the sword. It's a beautiful but effective weapon, Jack."
"Will you show me?" She pulls out her scepter and screamed,
"Watashi wa ai no ken oshokan!"
The scepter transforms into a sword, with a pink blade and a red handle, decorated with a pink heart in the middle and white wings at the sides. "It really was beautiful," he said. "But how is it effective? How is it intimidating like any other blade?"
"It takes inhuman discipline to make it intimidating,"
she said.
"When the Sword of Love strikes a blade, it creates sparks. But if it strikes human skin, it's harmless."
"I hope you're not thinking of using it on me," he snapped. "If the sword didn't harm human skin, how is it dangerous?"
"It relies on the heart inside the crossguard. The blade gets struck by a normal sword many times. Then the heart inside will start pulsating, beating, slow at first, then faster and faster, causing the blade to glow white. It will last for 13 seconds before the heartbeats slow and stop, reverting the blade to normal. Instead of cutting off your arms or legs, you'll cross swords with me. Go find something that could be good as a sword."
When he found a branding iron, she said,
"That'll do. Now strike the blade."
He did strike the branding iron against the blade of the Sword of Love. Immediately, it creates sparks. "Holy Christmas!" he screamed.
"Are you okay?"
she asked. "I'll be fine, Kitty. Just go!" They immediately crossed swords with each other. After sustaining a few more hits to the Sword of Love, the heart inside the crossguard begins pulsating, slow at first, then faster and faster, causing the blade to glow white. Sensing this, she said to him,
"Hold still! Stick out your branding iron to the side!"
While doing so, he said, "Please be careful, Kitty. I don't want to go back home with one arm." The heart beats faster and faster until it reaches its peak. Then, with a scream, she sliced the branding iron in 2. He screamed and dropped what's left of it. The sword turns back into her scepter. "If you call it the Sword of Love," he said, "I call it tough love."
"Just remember, once the heart pulsates towards its peak, the blade can cut anything it comes in contact," she said.
"We better hurry. Soldiers will be here any minute."
"It'll only take a second. Go find a carriage."
Grandpa Jack heads off. Princess Kitty swings open a door and drags out a brown horse. She kisses it on the forehead. "Thank goodness you're not one of those Bavarians," the horse begins to speak. "It turns out you're the only one who cared for me in a long time."
"What happened to you?"
she asked. "I've been enslaved by that terrible Baron for as long as I can remember. Now that you've freed me, I must get out of this awful place and on my own."
"What is your name?"
You will call me Insectatus.
I, the Princess Kitty, will set you free, Insectatus. But you will have to help us first.
For you, Princess, anything. Insectatus tried moving a step forward, but he collapses.
Are you hurt?
She asked. It's just that I'm sick, Insectatus said. I don't even have the strength to move out of the stables. She got him up to his hooves and hugs him, her face against his, while emitting low purrs, somehow giving him full of health and energy.
How do you feel now?
She asked. Insectatus knelt down to her in reverence. It's people like you who make me feel better, Princess Kitty. Thanks to you. Yes, I'll do it. I'll take you to the entryway. Then I'll be free.
I wish you good luck,
she said, kneeling. Kitty, I found the carriage, Grandpa Jack calls out. The pigs are already on board. If you found a horse, bring it. We'll part to the front. But we better hurry. Soldiers will be here any minute. She grabs Insectatus out and put him to the front of the carriage. With the two pigs, once Grandpa Jack got inside and Princess Kitty sat on the perch, the carriage speeds out from the lower courtyard and down the ramp as the angry voice of Randolph rang out. Don't let those thieves get away! Stop them! Stop them! And let the soldiers have the village blocked off! Don't let them escape! Stop them! Stop them! Down the ramp the carriage goes and heading towards the village. However, the soldiers give notice by Randolph and have the entire village blocked off. At the village, Grandpa Jack sticks his head out the window. Kitty, I'm getting the feeling that the soldiers are onto us.
Stay put, Jack,
Princess Kitty said. Be careful with your driving, though. I don't think Todd and Audrey would like that, he said before heading back in. After minutes of speeding through, they make it to the entrance arch, only to be blocked by barbarian guards, armed with their bayoneted rifles. Princess Kitty's carriage comes to a halt. There they are! Get them! One of the soldiers roared. Don't shoot the horse! Grandpa Jack can see the soldiers coming towards him and cried, Let's go another way, Kitty!
We can't,
Princess Kitty said, looking around.
We're being surrounded.
She has no idea how right she was. The soldiers surround the carriage. Two of them dragged Grandpa Jack out by the arms, and two more grabbed him by the legs. He went on screaming, Kitty! Help! But one of the guards clapped a hand over his mouth, and that stopped him. One guard tried to grab Princess Kitty, but she took a great leap onto a nearby building. Randolph arrived on the scene, gloating. Ring around the rosy, a pocket full of muskets. There is absolutely no escape. You two and your pigs are surrounded. While struggling, Grandpa Jack manages to bite one of the guard's fingers, causing the guard to cry out in pain, and uncovers Grandpa Jack's mouth. Grandpa Jack shouted at Ralph, You think you can get away with killing my grandchildren? Why, you're not! I won't let you! What you're all doing is horrible! Too bad! Because what you and your cat are doing is stupid! Soon, your children and the others will cry wee all the way to the slaughterhouse. The Baron will be pleased, and there will be enough pork for everyone in Bavaria, and with no kids around roaming these streets again. Soon, I'll have your head as a trophy. And that goes to your magical cat, too! He pulls out a Luger pistol from the inside of his coat and points it at Grandpa Jack. Now hold still, so I can put a bullet through your skull! But when he's about to pull the trigger, a red-faced Princess Kitty shoots a beam from her scepter and destroys his Luger. Holding the bell in her hand, she calls out from the roof of the building she's standing.
Pitiful, greedy fools of Bavaria! How you upset me and my friends for the last time! Now you will all pay with your lives!
Everyone stared at her as she rang the bell. I've really had enough of your lip! Randolph orders his soldiers. Kill them! Kill them both! But then, a huge tremor almost knocked them off balance. Loose roof tiles fall off. The horses were petrified and broke loose, running off. Princess Kitty leaps down and releases Insectatus.
I set you free, Insectatus,
she said.
I'll never forget you.
As the horse runs out through the entryway, the soldiers cry in terror. "Earthquake!" one of the soldiers screamed in terror. "There hasn't been earthquakes in this country before!" Randolph screamed in rage. "It's that cat's doing! She has put a jinx on it with that bell!" "Someone notify the Baron!" one of the soldiers cried in alarm. "Place a bounty on that cat!" The tremors stop, but one of the soldiers gasps and point at the entrance arch. "Hey, Randolph!" one of them cried. "There's someone on top of the arch! It looks like a huge monster!" He wasn't lying when he saw it. Soon everyone stared at a huge monster on top of the arch. Even the guards who were holding onto Grandpa Jack went immediately in shock and dropped the old man. The monster on top of the arch looks like a huge gray and black striped cat with yellow eyes that shine towards the terrified soldiers. It appears to be hollow with large holes on the sides. Its huge bushy tail cling onto the arch. There were 2 little pink mice, motionless and silent, with glowing red eyes that lay on top between a long red destination sign reading Bomvaria. What terrifies the soldiers the most of all was the monster's huge mouth, hissing widely, showing his sharp fangs, the mere sight of which would have filled you with fear. Do you know what it was? That monster was none other than the Catbus, which Princess Kitty has summoned through the ring of a bell. Who could ever be sorry for the soldiers anyway? The sight of that Catbus frightened them almost to death. Some even lost control of their bladders. But Randolph orders the soldiers, "Kill that hairy beast! Shoot to kill!" The soldiers grew some backbone and shouts, "Jawohl!" All at once they fire their rifles at the Catbus. But alas, the bullets have no effect, but to make him angrier. The Catbus bellows and leaps over them, landing on his belly. They're unable to get out of the way, and no time to react. His massive weight came crashing down on several of them with a sickening crunch, followed by silence. Randolph was shocked at several of his downed comrades, but he refused to back down. The soldiers retreat like crazy. Some even drop their rifles. "Get back here and fight, you cowards!" he screamed. Seeing an opportunity, Grandpa Jack hurled towards him, but Randolph shoved the old man off of him. Seeing that there's only one threat left, the Catbus began snarling at Randolph, moving towards him. Behind his lips, he boomed in a low growl, hardly audible. "You better run." Randolph pulls out his saber and readies himself to attack. "I'm gonna skin you into a throw rug!" he barked. But the conductress landed in front of him, grinning wider and unarmed. "Oh, how I do miss the spilling of enemy blood all over the pavement so much," she snarled. Randolph slammed his saber into her torso, though it didn't do much. His anger turned into surprise as she grins wider, wagging her finger at him. "Tisk, tisk. That really hurts." Then she slams her fist into his midsection, leaving him crouching and groaning for breath, before she knocks him onto the pavement with a backhanded blow to the cheek. Chuckling, she pulled his sword from her body and had it turn against him, while blood began pouring from her wound. His eyes widen as the conductress corners him and grinds one boot onto his chest, pinning him down. "You're not going to kill me with my own sword, are you?" he scowled. "Even if I decide to kill you, that would be too easy," purred the conductress. "I don't do anything that is too easy. So I say, unless you don't want a death wish." Once Randolph got to his feet when she released him, she went on. "I suggest you call it quits instead of fighting me." Instead of fighting or quitting, Randolph screamed, "Never!" before fleeing out of her sight. back to Castle Broadwurst. "You better run!" the conductress calls out. "You just picked the wrong puss to anger! You just keep on running! My fun in this country is not over yet! In fact, I'm just getting started!" Grandpa Jack stumbles to his feet, only to meet face to face with the grinning conductress. He gasped at the sight of her fangs. "Well," she said, "if it isn't you again." He launches into a face-contorting wail, but his shock prevents him from emitting actual sound. He closes his mouth, and then tries another wail to no oral effect. "What's the matter, darling? Trying to say something? Don't tell me. Is it—" She paused to take a breath, and then... Grandpa Jack still didn't get anything out. He wasn't sure he'd be able to get anything out ever again. The conductress grabs him by the collar. Even though she has that perpetual grin, she sounds angry. "Now you listen good," she spoke levelly, her yellow eyes glaring dangerously. "If it makes you feel better, maybe you're just having a bad dream. Your grandchildren are still in bed, dreaming of unicorns while the world sat back and laughed away the hours till the dawning of the daybreak."
"Oh, Jack,"
Princess Kitty groaned.
"at least be relieved that you're now safe. You did see the bus save us from those terrible soldiers."
"I am, Kitty. I thank you," Grandpa Jack stammered. "But it's your smile that I'm still afraid of." "Oh, is it?" purred the conductress, pulling him closer. "You know, darling, you could say I'm a cursed feline born with a smile on my face. Odd as it may seem, perhaps you like to know me better." She lets him go and pulls out an old Tanegashima pistol, pointing it at him, startling him. "Nonetheless, I always do anything for a sick joke, just to make you laugh." She fires her gun. Instead of a bullet, confetti shoots out, along with a tiny flag with the message, "Ban, omae wa shinda," popping out of the muzzle. "For those who have no sense of humor," she said, "I had to bust someone's funny bones." "Frankly, I do have a sense of humor, but I don't find any of your shtick hilarious," Grandpa Jack said. "Then it sounds like you don't have one, darling," she sneered. "There are a few things you need to know about comedy. When someone falls and hurts himself, that's comedy. When a dog ends up hurt or dead, to me, that's comedy. When someone dies horribly and slow, if that particular someone is my enemy, that's comedy gold. Get the picture?" He shook his head. "I don't think so." "You know," she said, her tone changed, "I think I do respect your opinion." She reaches out her right hand towards him. "Let's say we shake on it." Hesitantly, Grandpa Jack nods and grabs her hand. Then her forearm detaches from her elbow. He opens his mouth and lets out a loud scream as he drops the forearm onto the ground. "Oh, suck up, you big wuss!" the conductress cackled, her right forearm emerging from her sleeve. "Just theatrics." "That's not funny!" Grandpa Jack bellowed. "You could have given me angina for a stunt like that!" "It is to me," she said, grinning dangerously. "As much as I like to discuss about anatomy of the opposite sex, would I rather go through all this trouble just to harass you all day? No, darling. I have an entirely different purpose. I wasn't summoned here just to cause antics, you know, like I always do anywhere I go. Then again, if there is no emergency, why bother showing up?" Princess Kitty approached the conductress.
"I summoned the bus because it's an emergency."
"What kind of emergency are you referring?" purred the conductress.
"It involves the children of this town."
Princess Kitty walked to the carriage and let the two pigs out.
"Especially ours, Todd and Audrey."
"Your children as pigs? Funny. I happen to have a family of kittens myself back home.
They were turned into pigs after eating the cursed sweets at the castle, just like the rest of the children. Luckily, I used my scepter to reanimate all the armored suits. They still guard the dining hall to prevent the soldiers from getting there and sending the pigs to the slaughterhouse, where they can be slaughtered for pork.
Well, all this talk of slaughtering innocent children who got turned into pigs has got my absolute attention. Therefore, I would like to thank you.
For what?
For giving me an opportunity, put the conductress, smiling. I usually help along when it comes to desperate times. You do? Grandpa Jack asked. You're going to help us? It does work as an excuse to sharpen my claws, purred the conductress, protruding sharp claws from her gloves. Not to mention acting like a complete sadist, the angry voice of the engineer snapped as he exits the Catbus. Come, darling. She laughed teasingly with that pleasant smile that by now was like broken glass on his nerves. I'm surprised at you. Never satisfied with a sense of adventure. After all, how could I ever resist? I say cry havoc and let slip the cats of war. My cats, mind you. I'm sure they can do it better than I could. Fear gripped his body. As though in slow motion, he said, You wouldn't dare. However, the Catbus bends down. One of the windows stretched downward, becoming a door, allowing Haruka and Minako to walk out before it stretches back into a window. Grandpa Jack's eyes widened with disbelief at the sight of the two. They were bigger than the average cat, standing on their hind legs at about 4 feet tall. They have hands with 5 fingers instead of 4 paws. They gave him a single sharp glance, as though verifying his identity, and began to speak.
We be glad if we help you save the children with Princess Kitty,
Haruka purred, placing her paws onto him.
I do hope you're very impressed of what we look like,
meowed Minako. Grandpa Jack shook his head in disbelief. I don't think I would. You two were just about as too bizarre as that lady.
We wouldn't mind,
Haruka purred, lightly scratching the old man's pajamas with her claws.
We can see that you have a lot of getting used to,
meowed Minako.
We wouldn't even mind having too much blood on our fingers. It's what we're good at after all.
It occurred to Grandpa Jack that for the first time in his life, he really meant what the conductress had said about the cats being considered dangerous.
It would be nice,
Princess Kitty insisted,
if you allow the pigs to come board your bus along with me and Jack.
Have pigs board our bus, Kitty? The engineer snapped. Pigs are dirty. They'll track mud on the fur. If they do, you'll be scrumming it with your back, purred the conductress. And to add salt to the wound, there will be more pigs after we rescue them all. My bus is large enough to house an entire army.
More pigs and Castle Bratwurst,
Princess Kitty said. Isn't 2 of them enough? The engineer asked. I'm sorry, darling, but all complaints must be submitted in writing, put the conductress, giving him a coy sideways grin. And these 2 happen to be the old man's grandchildren. And why bother wasting any more time standing around here? You wouldn't want the bus to break down again, would you? The engineer, red-faced, mutters to his hypocrite of a boss. I ought to have you spayed. As he was walking away, his arm was suddenly taken hold of, and he was jerked backward to meet his boss's glaring eyes and her huge bearing fangs. We're going to Castle Bratwurst and save all these pigs before they end up on a plate, she snarled. And that means I do not want to hear another word coming out of your big fat hole. You got me? She slams him against the side of the bus, before glaring at the princess, Grandpa Jack, and the pigs. "Aren't you going to board, or what?" purred the conductress. The Catbus bends down. One of the windows stretched downward, becoming a door, allowing herself, the cats, Princess Kitty, Grandpa Jack, and the pigs to board. "I might need you, darling." The conductress pokes her head out of the window. "If it makes you shut up, I'll make sure you play a role." The engineer knew there was going to be a catch. "You will?" There was one. "You clean up after the pigs!" She erupts into a mad cackle as the engineer mutters, "Crazy little gripe."
"Come on!"
Princess Kitty calls out to him.
"This is a matter of life and death right now!"
He reluctantly boards the Catbus. "You think this Catbus is willing to help us also?" Grandpa Jack asked. The conductress answered, "It's a living thing, but it's a terrible thing to lose." Then she bellows, "Take us to the castle!" The engineer bellows at the Catbus, "You heard her! Destination Castle Bratwurst! Hop to it! And you better not fall asleep again!" The destination sign on the Catbus read, "Castle Bratwurst." The Catbus roars and he's off. "I hope we're not too late," Grandpa Jack shouted. However, the Catbus had a thought. "By the way, how does the adventure go so far with the Princess Kitty?" "Far from pleasant, thank you for asking," he snapped. "My grandchildren and I end up in a terrible workhouse after we were captured. The next day, hours before Kitty..." "I'm really sorry to hear that. No one, not even the passengers, deserves such unpleasant treatment, especially from a workhouse. I say, this calls for immediate action. The pigs will have to wait. Right, Catbus?" The Catbus growls as the destination sign suddenly changed. It now read, "Refuge." "The refuge?" Grandpa Jack snapped. "But what about..." "First things first, darling," purred the conductress. "If you don't know what creatures like me can do, now's your chance." The Catbus stops at the front gates of the refuge. Princess Kitty and Grandpa Jack peer through the window, just as the conductress heads outside. She was disgusted when she faced the grim facade of the building. Peering ahead, the guards are still catatonic from Princess Kitty's Batsu stare. Helpless. "So, it really is a horrible place," purred the conductress. "We ain't supposed to be here, boss," the engineer calls out. "We should be at the castle like you said. You don't want the children to be massacred, do you?" "There's always time for things, darling. I think Bomvaria doesn't mind if one workhouse is lost forever." "You wouldn't!" the engineer snapped. She turned her head back like an owl and glared at him. "You think I can't do that?" "Many times I've caused great conflagrations in villages and houses." "Conflagrations?" Grandpa Jack swallowed. "You mean..." "Yes!" purred the conductress. "Of course I can. I'm a Bakeneko, and in ancient times, Bakeneko are a menace to any house they live in or near." "Absolutely not!" the engineer snapped. "You get back in this bus!" Haruka and Minako grabbed him and smashed his face against the dashboard to shut him up. Grandpa Jack suddenly gasped as he spots a huge blue fireball appearing at the conductress's right hand, growing bigger and bigger. Her tail suddenly caught fire with the same blue flame. Princess Kitty was stunned when she saw that. "It's unbelievable!" he exclaimed. "Impressed, are you, old man?" purred the conductress. "Now, if you don't mind, I shall send this message to the filth of this place. I will tell all of those who oppose me what you witness here. This is what awaits those who dare oppose a most feared cat queen!" She turned and lets out a loud screech as she speeds her way inside, smashing through the door. A moment later, the building burst in a bright orange fireball. Explosions burst through the windows. Dear God! Grandpa Jack screamed.
What?
Princess Kitty asked. I didn't tell her about the elderly people in the elder ward, he said. Clearly, he was too stunned to cry, too amazed. Another explosion burst from the right side of the refuge.
Those elderly folk at the refuge. They had a good life, haven't they?
Princess Kitty asked.
Haven't they, Jack?
I suppose they do. Clearly, they're finally at peace after living in such a horrible place like this. They're better off in a better place rather than a workhouse. I should consider that a mercy. Then, emerging from the fire was the conductress, clothes completely unharmed. In one hand, she carries a certain hickory cane. As soon as she boards the Catbus, Grandpa Jack said, Those elderly people who live there. Did you meet them while you burned the place? They're taken care of, darling. And unharmed they are, she said. Unharmed? Grandpa Jack snapped. I don't see them coming out of there. I found so many exits in the refuge. One of them is allowed to have the elderly people go free. I may be violent and unpredictable in the ancient world, but I often show my mawkish side. Thanks to me, their troubles of living there are over. When he saw the cane in her hand, he pointed at it and said, Hey! It's the master's cane. I saw it lying next to him while I escaped. He even assaulted me in the knee with it. Admiring the feel of the smooth hickory, the conductor said, It was the master's, darling. What a keepsake I got now, as I burned the place down with him inside, not doing anything to save himself. She turned to the Catbus. Now, as you were going... The destination sign on the Catbus read, Castle Bratwurst. The Catbus roars and he's off, as the inferno grows bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm certain the rest of Bonfire is going to find out about this, Grandpa Jack said. I'm sure they would, the engineer groaned. It's best if you stay inside the bus when we get to the castle. I don't want any blood spilled out there. All it does is give me a shrinky winky. You bet there be blood, darling, and all over Castle Bratwurst, purred the conductress. As we venture forth, we have found out what is best, and when the coming battle's through, then so shall our quest.